Hello and welcome to this special show on Rajya Sabha Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and here we take a stock of India's fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Now, one of the very important aspects in these times is the issue of mental health. The reason why it becomes really important is because of the anxiety and stress people feel during these uncertain times, and specifically for those who have to remain in home isolation for at least 10 to 15 days due to their health status. So we will figure out what exactly is happening on the ground, what is it that the government has done in terms of awareness campaigns, guidelines, and what is it that general people, citizens like you and me need to do in these times. For this, we have with us a very distinguished panel of guests. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Dr. Rajesh Sagar. He is Professor of the Department of Psychiatry in All India Institute of Medical Sciences. We also have with us Mr. Nilambuj Sharan. He is the Joint Secretary with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and Dr. Nirmala Srinivasan as well, a mental health activist and somebody who's been working on this aspect for quite a long time now. So let me begin with you, Mr. Sharan, and let's start by trying to understand the situation, that is the issue of mental health vis-a-vis COVID-19 pandemic.
See, as government, we have taken very proactive steps to deal with the psychosocial issues emerging out of the physical distancing norms that were made applicable, and the social networking opportunities that became that were no more available to the people. And therefore, in order to handle issues like fear of contacting the disease or infecting the family members, or uncertainty of what will emerge out of this pandemic, what is going to happen after the pandemic, government has taken many proactive steps. And one of the very important steps taken towards the end of the March was setting up a helpline, psychosocial helpline, which is a 24/7 helpline set up by premier mental health institution, NIMHANS, and for offering psychosocial support to all those people who need it. And then especially for the targeted groups, like this support was available separately for adult, for children, for elderly, for women. And then lately, we also added a separate group of healthcare workers, because we found that they were also going through a lot of stress and they needed psychosocial support for themselves. So a separate category of healthcare workers was added in that psychosocial helpline. And for awareness, we have come out with IEC material from time to time for the population in general, population at large. And then we also realized that there were certain segments of the population which were likely to be more affected by this pandemic. Like children who were made to stay at homes, elderly who were staying at home, then our healthcare workers who were facing stigma at many occasions, and then those dealing with alcohol and tobacco addiction, how to address that during this lockdown period. So from time to time, we came out with various IEC materials, and we placed it on our website for its larger dissemination.
Okay. Let me now go to Dr. Nirmala and Dr. Rajesh as well. First, I'll come to you, Dr. Rajesh. If you look at this entire issue, specifically the issue of mental health, something which has been with us for quite some time now, but COVID-19 pandemic seems to have aggravated the situation. Why and how?
No, that's true. I think what we have seen in last few months, that mental health has become a big issue. I think, let me tell you, mental health is an integral component of health. I think most often we do forget this point, and especially it has evident now with any disaster situation. Mental health component is so important. I think there are mental health and psychosocial guidelines all over the world. I think we need to understand that, and the point is that the research and evidence what we have around the world, it says that it has gone 2 times more. Like, say for example, about 30%, 40% they do have anxiety or depression and stress related condition. But the point of what I'm trying to make here is we should not dwell so much on the diagnosis part, like anxiety disorder or depression, but more important, the distress what is happening around. Now, this distress is maybe related to COVID, the virus. I may be infected, so insecurity is there, uncertainty is there. But also there are a lot of issues which are indirectly related also, like I may infect this to my family member. What will happen to my work when I will, get my salary? And a lot of instances of domestic violence also has increased. So there has been multiple factors which has taken place, which is affecting one's own mental health. Now,
Okay.
also we need to understand that this is the new normal which is happening around us. Everyone is talking about it, so it does take time to adjust to that also, because we have to wear a mask, we have to maintain a social distance, we have to repeatedly wash our hands. So again, we are not used to all this, so this is also putting a lot of toll on us. It is
Thank you.
the stress is there. Even a mild amount of fever which is happening, which may be normal, we get panic, we get upset, and we have a sleep problem, so we are worried about, so what will happen to me, will I die? So these thoughts are coming, which is making a person more vulnerable in that way. So but at
Okay.
the same time, we need to know that Mr. Sharan has talked about those issues, but the important thing what we can do, the self-care, the self-management is also very important. To avail those services, we need to be motivated enough, to avail those services. I think that way the response of community is so important, because one can provide a help from these centers, from these institutions. But the thing is that the help which is there in a self, which is in a person, in the family, which is so important. Even WHO says the help from outside only 10%. The 90% has to come within family and the community. The community mobilization, community, harmonization. So these things are so important, and that is what everyone is saying, that we need to look at that more closely, the community response of this particular pandemic.
Okay, community mobilization, community and society does have a very important role to play here to try and, find answers to the questions which an individual might be facing in terms of anxiety, stress or distress, as Dr. Sagar is pointing out. Dr. Nirmala, I would like to bring you in here on the correlation between mental health and COVID-19 pandemic. As Dr. Sagar is pointing out, there are several reasons as to why people feel vulnerable, but which one are the most vulnerable segments of our society when we talk about these difficult times and the mental health issues?
Thank you very much at the outset to the Rajya Sabha TV for this opportunity. Now, when we talk about awareness and vulnerability, we have to distinguish between two sets of target population. One set is the general public, where all of us, 100% are infected or potential cases of infection. Whereas the other target population, those in the general public, were already under treatment for psychiatric disorders. As per the Act, they are known as persons with mental illness. Either they have been diagnosed or under treatment for disorders, or they are yet to be diagnosed, and there are no opportunities for diagnosis as such. So they're waiting for a clinical diagnosis, but nevertheless, they are in need of treatment, desperately in need of treatment. This target population response is different to the target population you are all talking about, where the general public and their general concerns, loss of job, loss of pay, domestic violence, children's school not being done, children studies not being disrupted. These are general issues in the community. So these two things have to be dealt with separately. This is my opinion on this subject. Nevertheless, mental health is mental health, whether it is for general public or for the target population. Mental wellness is the cornerstone of general health and public safety and public welfare. So it is very important in this COVID-19 situations how both are impacted, and how the government is able to reach out to the unique needs of the mentally ill population within the general population. And my experience, especially in this COVID-19 lockdown phases, has been more in touch with the families who are already having one of their members or more than one member under treatment for mental illness, maybe different major psychiatric disorders or common psychiatric ailments like anxiety, depression. They are not just stress, they are more clinically diagnosed mental disorders per se. They are not just stress related to such as situational factors or passing phases. So these are the kind of population I have been dealing with in the last 2-3 months. I have been familiar with them, and there are certain very unexpected responses from these families, and especially we are in our group, we have several persons under treatment who are very active, who are working, who are either studying, or even if they are not working or studying, they are very active in our group, sharing their experiences. And contrary to what many people feared, the persons with mental illness have adjusted beautifully to the COVID-19 challenges. And there was absolutely no problem wearing a mask. There was no problem staying at home, not going out, not stepping out. Though they must have had latent fears, we never had any opportunity to ask, because everything, we were ourselves, all of us, overwhelmed by the sudden descent of this COVID-19. All of a sudden it was picking up momentum, and we couldn't, every day there was something different. So there was no problem. But what I found is, as shared in our group, somebody said, Ma'am Nirmala, something, I'm quoting that person in first person, something, for us this is not a different experience. In any case, we are left alone. In any case, we are marginalized. In any case, there is no vaccine for mental illness. What an intelligent observation. I like all of you to listen to this. There is no vaccine for mental illness. So we continue to live in uncertainty. We continue to be jobless. We continue to have uncertainty from morning till night. We, in any case, when we go out in the shops and all, people find our behavior little odd. So we always stand aside. We don't mingle in the general public. So they brought out so many parallels. It was simply astounding. It is. I don't know what to say. I was very touched by it. And even in one of the webinars organized by the professional psychiatric groups, several of them are going on, many psychiatrists concurred with the fact there is no unusual behavior from any of the persons under treatment just because of COVID. On the other hand, there were latent fears and other things, about which I think in the forthcoming discussions I can contribute more on that.
Okay. Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you for those initial comments out there. Mr. Sharan, these two aspects I'd like to bring you in. One on what is being done vis-a-vis protecting the vulnerable sections of the society, as both the doctors here put in terms of, children or elderly people or people with mental disability. That's one aspect. And second is, as Dr. Rajesh pointed out, the community involvement is very, very important here. Simply the government guidelines obviously will not work. So mobilization or awareness in those terms, if you could just bring it in more detail.
See, taking forward the 2 points made by Dr. Sagar and Dr. Nirmala Srinivasan, the issues related to mental health are also widely impacted by the level of sensitization among people in general about the mental health issues. So for that, a lot of awareness generation about what the mental health is. It is also a kind of illness which is treatable. And so this help-seeking behavior among the people. First of all, acceptance that mental health is an issue, and people need to seek help when they feel any symptoms of mental health. So a lot of awareness generation about around the mental health issues to improve its acceptability as a disease condition, so that people go and take help. And about the vulnerable groups, as I told you earlier, there are, we did identify that children, elderly, healthcare workers, those forced to stay at home were more vulnerable to facing these psychosocial issues. And therefore, we came out with guidelines. And we also emphasized that a lot of things can be improved through self-help. In the sense, what an elderly should do, what children should do at home while they are forced to stay at home. So our videos, audio videos that we have placed on our website emphasizes both the points. What support the government can provide to them and what they have to do on their own. It's kind of a self-help to keep their minds in balance and to address the issues that they are facing.
Okay. Dr. Rajesh, in terms of those, do's and don'ts, if I would like to bring you in here, for general public, for, common man, in these tough times, what would you suggest as a professional as to what needs to be done not only in terms of if I am feeling lonely or I am feeling a bit stressed out or anxious, but also what if I see somebody else also in that particular situation? What is it that needs to be done?
That's a very good point. I think what you have made, and in our awareness campaign, I think we do look into this aspect. I think the key issue here is, okay, what we need to know is that it's a normal response to an abnormal situation. So what I'm trying to say here is that this is a normal reaction to what is happening, because we are going through such a difficult period. So what it will mean that this will be a temporary phase. So it is not going to last, and it will be there after some time. This period will also negative will go away. What the message I want to give here is, what is being seen in the stressful situation, we have to think positively, because our positive thinking is so important, that like something what we call as a self-efficacy, like in a difficult situation I will come out of it. I will in spite of the problems what I'm having in the family or in the community, I still will make over it. And that's a beautiful quality of a human being, that in spite of adversity they can come out strongly. So that positive thinking is very important. The other message I want to give third is that being connected with everyone. I think because not to think so much on social distancing, because it is a physical distancing. Emotionally you can be connected with your telephone, your video calls, or I have seen that people celebrate their birthday on online with so have that feeling of happiness, have the feeling of joy. Is you cannot meet personally, but you can enjoy through virtual media, because thankfully in this era we have this medium available. God forbid, had it happened 30 years ago, then we don't know what would have happened. So the point what I'm trying to make is that you can still be connected, and people feel so good about that, feeling connected with people. The other thing is, I want to mention here, not look into too much on the news, because they can be very anxiety provoking, because so many deaths have happened, so many people have become ill, this has happened. So that is also creating a lot of anxiety to people. So just fix up some time in the morning and evening, not to overdo it, not to get anxious. So have a good source of information. That is what always I am telling people. Go to the our authenticated website. I say Ministry of Health website, where the authenticated information is there, even WHO. So where you have the authenticated information, because the thing is, a lot of myths are happening around. Do this, you will be fine. Do this, you will be fine. So again, that is also very confusing to people. So we need to have information which is from good source of reliable source of information should be there. So I think and we need to have a structure of routine. Though we especially the elderly people, because they are vulnerable, so they should take care of their own health also. It is not just only mental health, but even physical, medical health, like your blood pressure, your sugar checkup, your emergency number should be there. If suppose, because many of elderly people stay alone, so there should be emergency number there. Our neighbors should also take care of them. So have that contingency plan. If anything happens, emergency, what they should do, which hospital they need to go, to whom they should contact. So all that plan need to be there, especially elderly and vulnerable people. So there are some physical activity also, like say for example, at home, something, a structure of routine of activities, and just having that this is a one period which is in a way adverse period is there, which again will go away, and one outcome will come out strongly, like previous time. I think that thinking is very important. I think we need to still have that positive thinking. Of course, a lot of efforts are being made by everyone, advisory which has come, and but at the same time we need to think that we have to take care of ourselves. That is what I said, self-care, self-management, that even to take that services, we need to be motivated enough to look at those services.
Okay, self-care, stay positive, and be motivated as well. Those aspects. Dr. Nirmala, your views on these two particular aspects. What needs to be done from a personal perspective, as well as from a societal perspective, as from a community perspective, in terms of contributing if we find that somebody is facing some problems, or there is some indication that something is wrong with a particular person. What needs to be done there?
Yeah, so there are many volunteers around in community level. Groups have come up in many of the, even in the residential welfare associations, apartment groups. Several community groups have come up, and one blessing is the social media is very very powerful in communicating whatever the facilities are created overnight by the government. I must say that both the state government as well as the central government, especially in the first 2 3 phases of the lockdown, have done superb work in terms of bringing out information, setting up facilities, contact helplines. It's not so easy. After all, it's something which even they had to learn on the job. It was like an on-the-job training going on at the same time, saving human lives, preventive, curative treatment with no medicine and hope. It's a tremendous amount of challenges, and they've done it very well. My compliments to the Ministry of Health, especially, and to officials like Mr. Saran on our panel. So every day the government set out information, but who will communicate it to the people? Who will monitor that such a thing is available? For example, even as late as a few days back, a friend of ours arrived, in fact, a distant relative arrived from Australia, and when she arrived, she found that she must be having some symptoms. Somehow she came out of the airport, the quarantine center, and she was told that you have to wait here, wait there, and all. But she didn't have the confidence. She wanted some known person to tell which number she should contact. Where is she that go? And we gave the number, and promptly the ambulance arrived. She just couldn't believe. This is the excellent service the government has extended. But as you know, there is always a gap between the facilities that is available and the communication and information in the community about the facilities that are available. So even Niman's helpline, we had to communicate to all the families such a helpline is available. We had to communicate to the people working from home in different HR, human relations managers handling their own staff in their companies. So all these several things had to be done. Coming to the specific target group of persons with mental illness, the first crisis they faced in the lockdown phase, in spite of being positive, first of all, positive or negative, it's a constant exercise that goes in affected families, and most of them know that a positive family environment helps in person's recovery and helps a person to progress better. Notwithstanding all that, what happened in the first lockdown? Pharmacies were closed. Suddenly, OPDs were closed. People's consultations, there was nothing called an e-consultation. Less 2 months back, we never heard of e-consultation, especially in psychiatry. And they didn't have medicines. They were cut off medicines. So, and of course, we could commute to for emergency services. So some of our family volunteers, it's our group, as I mentioned, Maitri, our group is a family advocacy group. Those families which had excess medicines, we said, okay, we have medicines for 3 months. Can somebody take it from us to that family? That sort of sharing started in a very micro level, at a very micro level.
Community efforts which you're pointing out here.
Yes, the community efforts at the community level, it started sharing psychiatric medicines. Then how do we do e-consultations? We just requested some doctors, let them pick up the phone, talk to them, forget about OPD, this and that. The PMIs persons with mental illness will feel reassured. If you just talk to them and say nothing has happened, the consultation, continue the same prescription. Continued CT, continued treatment, inspired a lot of security, sense of security in these people. Similarly, in the community also, when they call, when they reach out, even as neighbors, when they reach out, if we have some positive information, it drives the fear out of the family. I wouldn't say motivates them, at least it makes them take action. Okay, there is some hope. Let's call this number. Let's go there. And then, of course, telling them this is not an ill, there's nothing to fear, it's just a flu and other things. But one important thing, God forbid, but if it was to recur again, let's say after 5 years or 10 years, then the community, the communication should be something different. What happened? Everybody was scared, and so there was fear that was spread. Awareness was not in a very positive frame of mind. Awareness itself was loaded with fear, sense of fear,
Okay, ma'am.
sense of uncertainty, sense of hopelessness. What happened in China? What happened this? As Dr. Rajesh said, is cut out the channels, TV channels, cut out infodemic. So that is epidemic of information, what is called
The focus
as
on reliable source of information.
reliable. Even in spite of cutting out all that, the I wish maybe all of us can sit together, put our heads together. Can we develop a positive sense of communicating about this illness? So, a couple of our Ashoka fellows, led by one of our Ashoka fellows who is also a medical person, Dr. Vijay Dr. Ashwin Nayak, we have joined together to develop material which communicates positive things, definitely communicates in the illness, but not with fear-loaded thing. Social distancing, again, immediately has overtones in our society especially. You know, social distancing is a very culturally sensitive issue in India. So, again, that had to be put in a very different. The word social distancing itself is not correct. Social distancing has to be substituted. So we are trying to develop some material like that, information brochures which are more positive and motivating.
Okay, wonderful. Those are community efforts, as pointed out by Dr. Nirmala. Thank you so much there, and Dr. Rajesh, as well as Mr. Sharan from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, for sharing your views with us. Clearly, what our panelists are suggesting and pointing out is one particular aspect here, and that's a very important one. Be positive, stay positive, spread the positivity, communicate with each other, build those bridges within the community, and let's also focus on reliable source of information vis-a-vis COVID-19 pandemic and obviously other aspects in our life as well. Thank you so much for staying with us on Rajya Sabha Television. We'll come back again tomorrow with a different topic. Till then, keep watching RSTV.